Hi, I'm Cody Hatton, member of the Southern Wayne Advocacy Council and host of today's show. We'll be discussing the management of the Wayne National Forest today, and also we'll be introducing a new project called the Sunny Oaks Project. I have a number of people here with me today. Tim Sloan with the Wayne National Forest is here as the Ironton District Ranger. Judy Dumke is also here representing the Southern Wayne Advocacy Council, and we have Chad Fitton. He's also from the Wayne National Forest, where he's an Ironton District Forest Management Team Leader. Thank you all for being here today.
Thank you.
So, Tim, before we get to the Sunny Oaks Project, can you tell our viewers a little bit about the Wayne National Forest?
Sure. So, well, first of all, thanks for having us. And so I'm the local manager for the Ironton Ranger District of the Wayne National Forest. The Wayne National Forest basically has three distinct geographic areas. It has the Athens unit, Marietta, and Ironton. And the Wayne National Forest, by the way, is the only national forest in the state of Ohio.
Yeah.
So under the umbrella of caring for the land and serving the people, we actually do a lot of different things. I think probably in this part of the world, we're probably best known for the recreational opportunities that we provide, like camping and swimming and kayaking, hunting, fishing, riding ATVs, horseback riding and hiking, wildlife viewing. So a lot of different popular activities around the forest here. But there are lots of other things that we do, and one of the bigger things that we get into is we do a lot of work where we provide lots of different types of wildlife habitat for different species of wildlife and plants. And when I say different types of plants, everything from trees in excess of 100 feet to 4-inch wildflowers. Back to the Sunny Oaks project. So that project really is just in a proposal stage at this point, and it is really, its emphasis is about creating young, brushy forests, primarily made up of oak and hickory. Okay. Yeah, and it lays on the east side of 93 in the Sims Creek Valley watershed.
Oh, that's good to know. You know, I know we're here to learn today a lot about the woods that make up the area. You know, Judy, as a botanist, can you tell me what the conditions are like out there right now?
Well, right now is one thing, but really we need to go back a little and see what it was about the turn of the century. Yeah. There was a lot of agriculture going on. They had orchards. Think of the Rome Beauty apple. There was dairying, 27 dairies. Now we have one. There was a lot of personal farming. And the timber was used too. Not only was it used for mine supports and for some paper sales, but it was used for energy. All those homes had to be heated. There were no gas lines, there was no electricity, and then a good deal of timbering was done to make charcoal for the iron furnaces that were a dominant part of the western part of the county. The iron furnaces also disturbed the land in another way, because there was mining for limestone, there was mining for iron. So when the land was slightly abandoned because of economic changes in the early 20th century, things had an open space, and from the seed bank and the few surviving trees, what came back was oak hickory, and that's what we have now on most of the drier upland sites, not in the river valleys, of course. Yes. And that is now in varying age stages, from ones you can put your hands around to ones you can't put your arms around. Yes. So we have a big difference there. There is a good wildfire population out, ranging from very, very surprising things that come up from the seed bank. And Lawrence County has some of the largest numbers of rare plants in the state. We're not first, but we're pretty close. Yeah. And if we had more botanists working here, I think we would be first. So this is what's out there. We have a lot of agriculture. We have family farms. We have the Wayne National Forest. And we have people that just live out there. So there's a diverse set of conditions in the forest. Yeah. And we also have, unfortunately, a large number of species we wish weren't here. We have garlic mustard, we have Ailanthus, which is tree of heaven, which is not heavenly. We have Paulownia, which is princess tree. No princess would really have it. we have stilt grass, and we have multiflora rose and emerald ash borer.
Yeah.
All of these things are degrading what everyone likes.
Absolutely. And it's good to know where we're at right now, where we're going. So that's good to know. And I want to talk to Chad a little bit. You know a thing or two about the trees, obviously. Can you tell me why the forests that are here are so important?
Sure. Young forests provide a diversity of benefits for wildlife. Their thick and often tangled nature provide a safe place for birds to nest, animals to rear their young, as well as to escape being killed by predators that may be flying in the air or on the ground. Mm-hmm. Overall, our forests in Ohio are maturing, they're getting older, and we're losing that young forest component. Mm-hmm. In 1991, about a third of our forests in Ohio were considered young, less than 15 years of age, and in 2006, that number decreased down to about 12%. Mm-hmm. So it's important that our forests are getting older, and that has its benefits, but we also need the young brushy forests for those diversity of wildlife species. Yeah. And of the Wayne National Forest, we have about 245,000 acres of land we manage, and less than 1% of that is in young brushy forest state.
Absolutely. And it's great to know, to give our viewers an idea of how not only young forests or old forests affect us, but how it affects the other species out there, what we can do to work on that. And, Chad, talking about these forests, why are oak forests so important?
Well, the oak forests of the eastern United States are some of the most diverse forests we have in the world. Again, there is a variety of wildlife species that significantly benefit from the acorns that the oaks produce, as well as the cover that the oak forests benefit. Some of the species of wildlife that benefit from that are the black bear, the raccoon, of course the squirrel, but a variety of other species as well, cerulean warbler. And so the diversity of those forests are very important on our landscape.
Tim, I want to ask you, is it really all about the wildlife habitat then?
So I would say that it's primarily, yes, the Sunny Oaks project is primarily about producing these brushy young forests, but there are other benefits of this type of project. One of which is, so if we have a timber sale, that basically puts some timber products and monies back into the local economy. Yeah. The other thing is, so when we award a timber sale, there is a percentage of those receipts that comes back to the county for roads and schools. And and the last benefit that I'll mention is, so when as we're trying to perpetuate oak and hickory forests, so everything that we're proposing as far as the treatments, the type of timber sales, the prescribed burning, the timing of all these activities, all these things are proposals based on the best science that we have and what the land is telling us as far as when and where it's best to perpetuate that oak and hickory forest.
Oh, absolutely. It's good to know about how this process goes and the benefits behind it, whether it's from a lifestyle viewpoint, from an economic viewpoint, and so on. So thank you, Tim. That's going to conclude our segment of the show today. We thank you all for joining us as we bring greater awareness to Wayne National Forest and to the Sunny Oaks Project and its potential. I'm Cody Hatton with the Southern Wayne Advocacy Council. Hi, I'm Cody Hatton. I'm a member of the Southern Wayne Advocacy Council and host of today's show. Today we're going to be talking about the Wayne National Forest Management, and with that a new project called the Sunny Oaks Project. I'm going to introduce my guests today. Today we have with us Chad Fenton. He's the Ironton District Forest Management Team Leader with the Wayne National Forest. We have Judy Dumpke with the Southern Wayne Advocacy Council, And we have Ryan Sundberg, the Wayne National Forest Fire Management Officer, who will be joining us today from the Wayne National Forest headquarters. Chad, I want to start with you. In the last segment you talked about why young forests and oak forests are so important. What are you doing with the Wayne National Forest to work on that?
Sure, Cody. Actively managing our forests are the key to maintaining the oak, hickory, and forests that we have today. Different types of timber harvesting practices such as clear cutting and shelter wood, as well as stand improvement treatments such as prescribed burning and other treatments that are designed to reduce trees that compete with oaks and hickory, are very important for us on our landscape. Yeah. Without intervention, our forests will become maple and poplar forests in the next generation.
Okay, very interesting. And now we're going to talk to Ryan a little bit. Ryan, how can prescribed burning help with these oak and young trees?
Well, with oak, burning more frequently favors oak regeneration. Oak is a sun-loving plant. It likes to see the sunlight. And by burning, we're reducing the shade-loving species that will choke out the oak and prevent the oak from regenerating. Burning will also reduce the soil moisture in the forest floor, and it'll prepare the seed bed, and that will allow the squirrels and birds to cache acorns for future young saplings.
Thank you, Ryan. So what do you mean by burning more frequently?
We'll have a oak stand that hasn't seen fire in quite some time. We'll do a first entry prescribed burn. And so what we see, we start clearing out the underbrush for the most part, the forest floor, cleaning it up. And we don't see too much response at first burn, but that third entry, the third time we go in and see prescribed burning, we start to see that oak vigor. The oak starts sprouting and you'll see them grow more. And that's where we really start seeing the effects. So just because we burn once doesn't mean it's a done deal. And so prescribed fire as a tool, it's a multiple application tool. We need to go in there multiple times to start seeing the results. So after the second burn, we'll start seeing more grasses growing. And then after the third burn, when we start really prepping the seed bed and getting it down to mineral soil for the acorns to start germinating, that's when we start seeing the oaks sprout.
So how do you ensure prescribed burning is conducted safely?
Yes, if the conditions aren't favorable, and when I say unfavorable, we have a bad weather parameter within our prescription. So either the winds are too high, the temperature's too high, and the relative humidity is too low. We will not burn that day. We'll wait for another day to come into prescription with the weather. And the biggest item we have is atmospheric stability. We need the smoke to lift and mix out, so we're not impacting our adjacent landowners, the neighbors, property owners, towns, cities with smoke impacts.
Thank you, Ryan. So Chad, are you saying that clear cutting and prescribed burning are okay with this type of process?
I am, Cody. Harvesting and burning work so well together. They work so well to control the trees competing with oaks and hickory on our landscape. Oftentimes we find young oaks in our forests. However, when they're often 1 to 2 feet tall, and how could they compete with a maple tree that's towering over them? Absolutely. That could be 20 or 60 feet tall. So we use best available science that's been honed and conducted research in our area over the last 60 years to carefully prescribe treatments to enhance our forests as well as perpetuate the next type of forest that we have. Yeah. Oaks and hickories can take a decade or more to get those young oaks in place to become our next forest. And so without intervention, our next forest will become a maple or a yellow poplar type of forest. Yeah. And so, as I mentioned before, the wildlife so greatly depend on them that it's important that we, as managers of our public lands, conduct forest treatments that benefit our generation and future generations.
Absolutely. It's great to know what that intervention process does for that type of process for the forest. So, okay. I want to throw it to Judy now. As a member of the community involved in science, particularly botany, what do you think about all this?
I think that the science background is sound. It's been coming out for many years. I've pursued it in the literature and now in webinars, in going to meetings, and more importantly, in site visits from Missouri to Pennsylvania, in Alabama. And I've seen that it really works.
Yeah.
Now, we have one experimental forest just north of us at Vinton Furnace in Ohio. The results there, I'm sure, are things that Chad has looked at. Have you, Chad?
Correct.
Yeah.
Yes, and so we have guidelines as to what happens. Now, it doesn't always work. The one in Alabama had a tornado go through that set everything back.
Yes,
there
it
are
can.
things that we can't, and no one can anticipate. And usually there are adjustments made, and something happens. Okay, we had a drought, we'll compensate. We had flooding, we'll compensate, and you get back on track.
Yep.
So I've seen the literature, I've seen the results, it really works. Now there's a couple of things though that sort of are always incorporated. Ryan mentioned some of them. When they do the burn, what season, how frequent, and this is site adapted. You adapt it to the site, do you not, Chad?
Absolutely. We look at each site and prescribe the appropriate treatments.
Yeah.
Right. And the other thing is that this forest is not one contiguous tract like those in the West. It's got all sorts of little small patches and bigger patches that other people own.
Yeah.
And there's no control over what they do, so we have a diverse set of management objectives. And in this case, only the forest is involved. Is that right, Chad? You have no right to do anything to individuals, do you?
Correct. No, we have more than enough to manage at 245,000 acres.
Right. And so we will have things that are unexpected and probably exciting. One of the most important things that they have observed is after some of these prescribed burns from the small plants on the ground and the seed bank, you're getting species you thought were extinct in the area, but they're coming back because of these treatments.
Yes, they are.
Yes, this is an extremely important tactic to use.
Absolutely, absolutely. Well, Judy, I appreciate that very much. And that's going to conclude our segment for the show today. We want to thank you all for joining us as we bring a greater awareness to this project with the Wayne National Forest. I'm Cody Hatton with the Southern Wayne Advocacy Council. Hi, I'm Cody Hatton, a member of the Southern Wayne Advocacy Council and the host of today's show. Today we're going to be talking about the management of the Wayne National Forest and a new project called the Sunny Oaks Project. I'd like to introduce my guests today. Today we have with us Rachel Orwin, Environmental Coordinator for the Wayne National Forest, Tim Sloan, District Ranger for the Ironton District of Wayne National Forest, and Tim Dickens, who's a member of the Southern Wayne Advocacy Council. Thank you all for being here today. So Rachel, Tim, I want to talk with you all first. I know there's a project proposal that you want us to discuss. Can you tell me what the Sunny Oaks Project is all about?
So the Sunny Oaks Project proposal is really about or emphasizing the creation of very young, brushy forests, and forests that are primarily made up of oak and hickories, to help those species that find that type of habitat to be critical to their needs.
And Cody, one of the best ways that we can go about creating that habitat is to use timber harvest in combination with prescribed fire.
Okay.
And for the Sunny Oaks project, we looked at an area that is about 25,000 acres. And that's not to say that we're talking about touching each one of those acres. We're just talking about, you know, north to south, east to west. That's the area that treatments encompass.
Okay.
And so what we are proposing at this point is about 2,900 acres of commercial timber harvest. Wow. And that's a mix of clear cutting and shelter wood harvests. A clear cut harvest is designed to remove all of the trees in one fell swoop. And we would of course be leaving trees along stream corridors to protect them from any silt and sediment and maintain temperatures and that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
And then in a shelter wood harvest, we come in, or a logger would come in actually, and remove about 60% of the forest canopy in one harvest. And the remaining trees then are left to provide a seed source for young oaks and young hickories, and they also provide sort of dappled sunlight.
Okay.
And we leave that stand alone then, no more harvest for about 10 to 20 years. And at that point, the oaks and hickories have hopefully become established to where we would come back in and remove those trees that we left the first go round.
Yeah, wow.
So those are the harvest types that we're considering. Now in combination with that, we're looking at, on average, 2,000 to 4,000 acres of prescribed fire annually in that large area that I talked about.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what's important for folks to realize is that we're not talking about all of this activity going on at one time. It'll be taking place over a 10 to 20 year period.
Yeah. Don't want to burn 2,000 acres in one day, do you?
Well, I don't know. We may. It depends on weather conditions and all of the things that kind of drive us to think about safety and that sort of thing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so there are some other things that happen when we're doing timber harvesting and prescribed fire. We will be building some roads. We'll be reconstructing existing roads. We have to create things called landings, and that's where the trees that come out of the woods are stacked and wait to be hauled off to a mill. For prescribed fire, we build things called fire breaks or fire lines, and we try to use existing features as much as possible, things like roads and trails, but there will probably be a need for some new fire lines to be constructed.
Absolutely. Well, let me ask then, how did you decide what needed to happen where?
A team of our staff got together and we looked at all of the data that's been collected from this area over the years. We have a lot of information that we have actually gone out into the woods and observed ourselves. And we used that in combination with a model that was developed by Forest Service researchers at the Northern Research Station.
Yeah.
So we took those two things and we looked at them spatially. We looked at the actual tabular data and determined where we had the best chance of actually getting oak and hickory to maintain it and to regenerate it so that we have those types of forests moving forward into the future. We also realized that the need for that young brushy forest is so urgent that we probably need to think about creating it in areas where we know it will not be oak and hickory forest.
Of course.
And so in those areas we'd be looking more for a mixed hardwood stand to come back and be the next forest type.
Yeah.
When we looked spatially, across that 25,000 acre area, to make sure that we had harvest kind of spread out throughout the area. We didn't want them all kind of bunched in one corner or anything like that. So we wanted to make sure that they were spread out.
Tim Dickens, I want to talk to you as an interested community member. Can you tell the viewers what you think about this proposal?
I personally support the project. In addition, the staff of Wayne National Forest has visited the Southern Wayne Advocacy Council meeting and made a presentation in front of the membership. At the end of that presentation, the membership fully supports the Sunny Oaks project.
Absolutely.
In addition, it will help the health and safety of the forest and help prevent the spread of invasive species of trees and bushes in the forest area that are choking out the forest at this time.
Yeah.
It will improve the habitat of wildlife through reestablishing greater oak and hickory stands in the forest. And it also looks at the long-term perspective of the forest management plan.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Tim. And that's going to conclude our segment of this show. We're happy to bring this greater awareness to you all, and we thank you all for watching this as the Sunny Oaks project unveils, and we work closer with the Wayne National Forest to bring this project to life. I'm Cody Hatton with the Southern Wayne Advocacy Council. Hi, I'm Cody Hatton, a member of the Southern Wayne Advocacy Council and host of today's show. Today we'll be talking about the management of the Wayne National Forest and a new project called the Sunny Oaks Project. Let me introduce my guests. Today we have with us Rachel Orwin, Environmental Coordinator for the Wayne National Forest, and we have Tim Dickens from the Southern Wayne Advocacy Council. How are y'all doing today?
Good.
Good. Rachel, I want to start with you. So how can the people watching this video become involved in the Sunny Oaks Project?
Thanks, Cody. Well, folks that are interested can contact me directly, or they can get in touch with District Ranger Tim Sloan. They can call the office, the Ironton Ranger District office. They could stop in, they can write an email, written letter, all of that is fine.
Yeah.
I believe either now or in a moment up on your screen, there should be appearing the information for how people can get in touch with us. Also included with that is a web page where we've got more information posted specific to the Sunny Oaks project, how folks can get in touch with us, and more information about the different treatments that we're proposing.
Okay. So what kind of feedback would be helpful?
We really like to receive information specific that people know about the area.
Okay.
If there's an area that we should stay away from for any reason, maybe there's a safety issue, a cistern or an old home site, something along those lines, perhaps an old coal mine opening or something like that. We'd want to be aware of that. Also, if folks are aware of an area they would like us to treat, that would be great to know too.
Yeah.
I mean, nothing is set in stone at this point. We have the option and the ability to change things as needed based on public feedback. We really appreciate hearing when folks like our proposals. That's really great feedback to receive, but we also value when folks think that we haven't hit the mark. We want to know that too. And it's really helpful when people can be as specific as possible. So if they don't like prescribed fire for some reason, it's instead of saying, I don't want you to burn the woods, it's more helpful if they can give us a reason why, be more specific. Is it the smoke? Is it the perception that it damages the trees or something along those lines?
Oh, absolutely. The specifics really help in breaking down that information for you
Absolutely.
all and for what they want to learn from what they're submitting. You know, like you said, the more specifics, the more they understand the processes behind it. So, absolutely. And you know, for both of you, what comes next with this?
So for the Wayne, we are accepting feedback on our initial proposal through May 1st. And again, like I said, folks can get in touch with us in various ways just to let us know what they think about the project. And once we get all of that feedback after May 1st, a team of our staff internally is going to take a look at it and consider it all and determine, has the public brought up something that we haven't considered already, a potential negative trade-off that we need to be aware of, either to try and not have that negative effect or to try and minimize it to the extent possible, or maybe we just need to understand it better. They may also have told us that they'd like us to do a specific treatment in a specific location, and so we'd be considering that as well. At that point, the team is going to pull together an environmental analysis, and so that will talk about the pros of action and the cons of action. It's kind of like a cost-benefit analysis. And that will be put back out for the public to take a look at and determine and let us know what they think about it. And all of that will happen before the ranger, District Ranger Tim Sloan, makes a final decision on the project. And at this point, we are hoping to have a final decision sometime around the fall of 2018.
That's great. That's really great. Tim, what do you think comes next?
I just enjoy Wayne National Forest, this natural resource. There's 245,000 acres of public land that's available for the public to use, and I encourage the public to get out and enjoy this natural resource.
Get out there, have fun. I agree. And thank you, Tim. And you know, that's going to wrap up today's show. We thank you all for joining us as we bring a greater awareness to this project and with what Wayne National Forest and the community is doing. We want to give a special thanks to OU Southern's electronic media department for the use of their studio and production on today's show. Until next time, I'm Cody Hatton with the Southern Wayne Advocacy Council.